we're going to do tours of Lunenburg Town Hall, Lunenburg Primary School, the Ritter Memorial, the Pacios, and the Brooks House. And so we're waiting for people to show up at 10, and then we'll be taking them on as a walking tour, explaining the conditions of the building, explaining what some of the limitations the buildings have, and help people kind of come to grips with, the decisions that will have to be made about these buildings in the future.
Yeah. It's a hot-button topic, to be sure, so I don't know that most people have actually been inside the buildings to see them. Certainly Town Hall from selectmen's meetings and other meetings, but the other buildings, particularly the old primary school, and perhaps even the Pacios, unless you've had children there, maybe hasn't been seen as we're going to see it today, so we're hoping for a good turnout.
Thank you everyone for coming today. I know December is a busy time of year for everyone, so appreciate you taking the time to come today to see the town buildings that we're going to view today. So the tour will include Town Hall, the old primary, the Ritter building, the TC Pacios, and the Brooks House. So this will be an opportunity for you to see the condition of the building firsthand and ask any questions you may have. The DPW Director, Jack Brodekins, is here, and John Londa, the School Facilities Manager. They're pretty knowledgeable on all the aspects of the building. I'll answer as much as I can as well. But we're going to start here, and anyone who wants to see the attic, we can go up to see the attic, the basement. The basement, because of the remediation project where there was plastic put on the flooring to retain the moisture, any moisture that comes in, we'll let you look in, but we don't want to penetrate the plastic that's down, so we can't walk into the area. So if there's any questions right now before we start. So this building was built in the 1830s, and we've begun a variety of projects. The mold remediation project was immediate concern. There was an indoor air quality report that came out last March that needed to address obviously the air quality. So there was mold in the basement, which we undertook, the DPW specifically addressed that and hired a firm to come and remediate the mold, do follow-up air quality testing to make sure there were no mold spores before and after, and it came back clean, the report after. So what they did is they put plastic all, basically tore out everything, and maybe Jack can pipe in when you...
Yeah, we tore a lot of files in the basement over years. Dog licenses from 1970 and everything, right through something more recent. That was all removed. All the ladies that work in Town Hall, different departments, it was a team effort. They checked those things that we needed to keep, and the rest of it went into a dumpster. Heather was able to get special permission from the state to relieve us of some of that responsibility of keeping things for 7 years or so, but we did have to document everything that we threw away. Since then, we've kept it stored in a trailer. Its eventual home will be the Pacios, but in that interim, we have to have those files cleaned. So that's another process we have to go through, each page, each book, and that you can imagine that's sort of a process to do. Everything was then pulled out. There was some wooden floor, there was some dirt floor, there, like your basement, a lot of Christmas decorations and other things that just got thrown down there. Everything removed. A white substance was sprayed on certain things, other things were cleaned, and then a very heavy plastic product was put on the floor and up the walls, which you'll see. If, like Heather said, we can't get in there, you don't want to penetrate the plastic, but the side door you can just sort of pass through and you'll get an idea of the plastic that keeps that dry. We have a dehumidifier, industrial strength dehumidifier that goes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. and it's a huge improvement as to what it was. We had a hygienist come at the completion of the project to certify that there was no mold, and even though it's safe to pass through, it's not something that we're going to be able to use no matter what happens with this town hall. Furthermore, if you're going to go upstairs, just know that that was another project. You'll see a lot of files that are also upstairs. We've been waiting for the allocation from town meeting to move those files, which are not moldy, and the ones that we will keep will go over to the Passios as well. Others will be thrown out, and that contract is getting ready to work on that. There was bird waste throughout the attic. We had that removed and coated before we moved to the basement, so it's perfectly safe if you choose to go up there. I just will take the opportunity carrying these masks around. It's no joke. We had you sign the indemnification. This is primarily for the old primary school. Heather and I were in there some weeks ago, and honestly, if you have some sort of respiratory problem, I would suggest you don't go in there. If you do choose to go in there, we'll have a mask for you, and we're going to keep you right at the ground level. It's something we certainly don't want to cause a problem for somebody.
So, Jackie, bird waste was another aspect to the project that's been completed so far, but also what's to come is the remainder of the project is to do the HVAC ductwork, clean that, balance the air system, and move the boxes because of the excessive weight, and it's not a conditioned space upstairs as well. I do also want to caution you, as you're going upstairs, it's very narrow and the stairs are narrow, so watch your step.
Well, we don't want to go up and mill around. If you want to go up, we go up in 2s and 3s and just look. You can see the whole thing from the top landing and then come back down. It's for your safety. Rhonda?
There aren't any bats up there.
There aren't any bats up there. Not as of last week.
And it's daytime. I'm not afraid of bats.
So without further ado, if anyone has any other questions?
Did you actually get to go into the primary school?
Yes, the ground floor level. We don't want anyone going upstairs. We're unsure, the structural.
You'll get a good sense right at the entryway on the first floor of the building condition, which is what this is hopefully will come up with, understanding.
Are they planning on tearing that down eventually?
We'd like to get everyone a better idea of what these buildings look like. That's going to be a question for the town, the administration, everyone to come. This is not to sway you in any way. There's no spin on this in terms of where we should go, what we should do, what it should be. Lord knows there'll be enough time for that discussion. This is just to give you more information.
Also, obviously, the town hall was painted. Looks great, but just a disclaimer, as we've said all along, there was significant rot on a lot of the clapboards. I'm sure people saw that as they were painting, the removal of floors and everything, but the substrate, the sheathing underneath was also rotten. So the next time the town hall needs to be painted, the recommendation is to take off all the clapboard and the sheathing. There's no insulation, so that's a good opportunity to do that as well. Okay, so without further ado, want to get started?
Okay, so the entrance to the attic is right here. I suggest you go up in 2s and 3s.
second floor, then two
Forget how huge these buildings
carriers.
know.
Two trans, they do the first floor. So that's the air conditioning. And then there's a furnace on the first floor as well as a roof, one in the attic.
The building was built in 1909. The portion you're standing in right now was built in 1963. It was an addition onto the original building. And what you can see is what you get. But there's some AC units, like mini split over there, as well as Adam in the...
There's one in here, and then you can see the one at the top of the stairs, and that's all the cooling in the building.
So it's conditioned unevenly, as you can imagine. And the windows need replacement. There do need to be some electrical upgrades to the building. The ADA, there is a chairlift over in the corner you'll see, as well as the entrance for the handicap ramp is over in this office space. So it's not ideal for anyone looking to access the building that has accessibility issues. So feel free to take a look around, and if any questions you have, feel free to ask them, if you want to ask them now.
None of the 5 buildings have sprinkler systems.
Correct. Well, TC Passios.
Yeah, Passios has the hallways and a lot of the assembly areas, but classrooms are not.
Is the basement available this evening?
Yes.
Yep, go down the stairs.
The chairlift only goes from this level up. There's no accessibility to the bottom level, which is used for me.
No, down.
Yeah.
You learn something every day.
The basement is where we have the meetings. That's the
Yeah.
I thought there was a basement under here, though.
No.
No?
That's over there.
Okay.
Just a lower level. This is a slab.
That's great.
Some upcoming work just to note too is that the DPW is going to be hiring a company to do some gutter repairs because there's been flooding in the basement at some meetings.
Yeah, with heavy rain.
Heavy rain, so it's a drainage issue. And there have been issues with the sewer system as far as the pitch of the pipes. So that's been addressed occasionally.
Connected to town sewer.
It is. The problem is under this level here, not once it gets outside.
And has the gas issue been addressed? Every once in a while, last year, regularly, we would smell it up front.
Yeah, and each time we get a report, we have the gas company come because it's so important. They can't find it. No, is it for lack of trying?
It can be really around the neck, okay.
Yeah, just a bit. You got a little bit of a slope. We like that. That's so the water doesn't cool. Lunenburg TV lady. See it?
It has offices, so it has telephone lines, data network lines running throughout it. The attic space was created for office spaces as well in the very, very late 1990s. And so there is a third floor that our special services department operated out of. The challenges associated with this building. So it is a farmhouse. For use as a municipal building, it's going to have one significant drawback, which is that it's not going to be accessible. That's some substantial changes to it. You came in up several steps. There was another step before you came in. So you probably would need at least a 45 to 50 foot long ramp to get to this level just to get in the door. Once you get in the door, every interior door is too small. We don't have any way to get to the second floor other than a set of steps just out here, low railing, so not adequate. So the problem is going to be accessibility on this for any kind of municipal use. The basement, if someone wants to go down the basement, I can take you down there, but it's going to look a lot like Town Hall. It is concrete slab, but there's a perimeter drain all the way around it. It is low. It has trees as the posts. And the heating system for the building, which is a gas-fired boiler, is down there. It's relatively new. I think we put that in 2006. So it's gas heated. It runs forced hot water, and there are 5 different zones. And so we're operating, essentially 2 zones right now. The rest of them are just set back to like 60 to 55, 60 degrees during the winter months. So we continue to heat them, but we don't heat them particularly high. So that's kind of what's going on with this building. And as far as land goes, it does not have a set parcel per se. It's on the large parcel with the schools, and I don't believe this building has been transferred to the town and is under town control. I don't think there was any lands identified at this point that transferred over, but the town is currently a town building. I am currently managing it for the town. Because my office, like I said, is here in the back half of the building. And as far as the routine maintenance, what's going on is the rental fees from the Lunenburg ledger that occupies the office next door is about $6,000 a year, and that's being used to pay the utilities on the building and the maintenance costs. The maintenance are like the annual service on the boilers, any repair work, servicing of fire extinguishers, anything that the building would need, sewer costs, water costs, all that's being paid through that rental fee. And
would it cover everything for the...
Yeah, it's covering that. It wouldn't be able to cover something like roof replacement. Now the roof is probably at the point where consideration would be made for replacement. I would say mostly it will be driven by what happens to the building. If the land around the building is a problem, on this side we have a detention basin that services the parking lots for the library, so that really can't be much done with. The parking lot back behind here does sit on the school parcel. The lighting on it is comes out of the library. So if you tried to carve something out for this, you're going to have to get some land behind it. Access is a problem because there's really not a way to put another entryway off of Mass Avenue just for this building. So it's either got to be something that's coming in from behind the building, either from Memorial Drive. So all those kind of decisions have to kind of become grips with. But yeah, so kind of a tough location. So future uses are somewhat limited. as it currently is.
They're gonna have to tear it down or something?
So it's in the historical district, and I said it's one of the buildings that makes up the historical district, so it does have protection from that perspective.
And do you know how old it is, roughly?
I'd say it's got to be at least 100 years old, but I don't have the exact date. But
I think it's 1870.
Okay.
yeah, thanks. So if you want to go up the stairs, like I said, there's
Windows and electric service?
so the windows we have storm windows, and so they're old, the old windows, but we do have storms on them. The electrical service has been upgraded as it's gone along. It's not, I wouldn't call it modern, but it is it's not knob and tube. It's not old style. It's not screw and fuses. It is a fuse panel, and because it was the school district and planning board here, there's a lot of additional electrical has been added to be able to support those kind of operations.
And how about any outstanding internal maintenance that would need to be done? Anything?
There's nothing, it currently supports ongoing operations for the ledger and for my office. And so the next thing I would say is that's kind of the big thing would be roof. We don't have any current roof leaks. We did lose a shingle last year, and like I said, the roof is probably for at least 30 to 40 years, at least 30 years old, I'd say. So that's kind of the next big thing and when that happens is hard to say, because I think a lot of it might be driven by what happens with the building.
And the porch?
So the porch is original. We've replaced the stairs. We used to have granite stairs. We replaced those probably about 12 to 13 years ago. When the superintendent left one night, fell on the granite steps. We replaced them. And it's vinyl sided, so that's not particularly historic, but it could use a paint job on those areas that are not vinyl sided.
To the best of your knowledge, beside the fact of its age, does anybody in here know if there's anything historic about this building?
Well, there used to be a barn behind it where I guess traveling bicyclists used to stay as like a hostel, but they tore that down when they built the school.
Okay.
So that's the only, reading the town historic books, that was a major mention about this building.
And at one point, there was a slaughterhouse, which was common for farms at that point. But names of people, I don't believe there's anybody named associated. It's called the Brooks House because it was the Brooks family who owned it at the time the town bought the property.
School. It's named after this gentleman who was principal here from 1953 through 1962. So the building, he was the first principal when this opened in 1952. The history of the building, as far as major work that's gone on, there was a period of substantial change that was done in 1986. At that point, all of the classrooms got brand new windows. They're double pane windows. The skylights in a large portion of the building were closed up, and drop ceilings were put in those areas that had access to the skylights. Also in 1986, the roof was replaced. So we're still working off of the EPMD roof that was up there from that time. We redid over the boiler plant in 2003, 2004, and at that time we also upgraded away from pneumatic controls to a digital control system. So the building has digital controls. It's configured, as you might expect, as an elementary school, where we are able to bring on large sections of the building and run those. We do have individual room controls, however, but not as a scheduling point. So we are maintaining occupied space at 70 degrees, which we are probably occupying, I'd say, maybe 10% of the building. And then the rest of the building we're retaining at around 50 to 55 degrees. So you won't notice that in the hallways, but it'll be in individual classrooms. You'll feel that they're pretty cool. The other thing we did recently, 2012, is we came and re-seamed the existing roof. We were having lots and lots of leaks in over the previous 5 to 10 years. Since re-seaming the roof, we have substantially cut the number of leaks, but we have not ended all of the leaks. So we are always in a position of chasing after the odd leak. And that's, as I said, you've got a roof that went on in '86. We're past its normal expected lifespan. The reseaming we thought was going to buy us between 5 and 10 years of additional roof life. So we are already a good chunk into that.
Can I ask a question? I'm intrigued by this because when I remember a town meeting that went into detail about how the school would require $8 million because of all the asbestos that was in it to rehab, and it wasn't worth it. And I, in my ignorance, stood up and said, well, you're demolishing the high school, why not demolish this? And somebody said, we have uses for this school. But so what happened to the asbestos?
So the asbestos is still here.
Right.
So it isn't gone anywhere. So let me talk about the asbestos. Yeah. You'll see this as we walk around. So almost all of the rooms, also the classrooms, many of the hallways, the larger spaces like the cafeteria, have a 9-inch by 9-inch tile. That's the original tile from 1952. It is asbestos-based. At the same time, asbestos was being used in large numbers of building materials. So the glues that hold those tiles down also have asbestos in them. These tiles are, like in this lobby, 12 by 12. These have been down, I'd say, 25 to 30 years. I would be very skeptical that they removed the adhesives before this was put down. So this floor may not be hot. The mastic that holds the tiles probably still is. So besides tiles, cove base around the room, so the little base that goes all around, that's also asbestos based, as well as pipe insulation that is above the ceilings. Almost all of the insulation that was in the classroom spaces, in the hallways, has been removed, and now is just a fiberglass base. I can think of only one location in the building where, in an occupied space, we still have asbestos pipe insulation. But above the ceilings, it's going to be all asbestos pipe wraps. And so that's asbestos as well. There is a small amount of transite panel, which is like a cement-based panels that asbestos was added into. Those are mostly above, not in areas that are occupied. Those are above the ceiling. And then anything that's essentially been glued on is suspect. But the big thing is we know the floor tiles, we know pipe installation above the ceiling is. So I think the biggest problems that this building has are going to be, we are now at 65 years since this building was constructed. So many of the building systems are way inadequate or way beyond their expected lifespan. So things like the electrical system. Electrical system here, for the most part, is original. There are some things that have been changed. The boiler plant in 2004 meant we went and we upgraded electrical in the boiler room. But we do have screw-in fuses here that are still in use. The service that comes into the building comes into the original 1952 electrical service. So some of the main switch gear is really old and should be upgraded. So electrical is a problem. Ventilation system. The ventilation system, when this was a school, was still operational. It was operational. We're not running too much of it currently because we just don't have the number of people in the building to justify running all the ventilation equipment. But it is pretty much the original equipment with repairs that have been made over the last 65 years. But like I said, when it was last to school, when we moved the elementary out of here, it was operational. I know we do have some areas where we had a motor or two that was loud that needed to be replaced, but the digital controls do operate it, and we are able to control it on and off if we need it. We do run the ventilation for the gymnasium, and that's part of the heating system as well as the radiators. So that system also is, looking forward to what future use for this building. That's another area that's going to need a lot of work.
I have a question. We're currently using parts of the building, so asbestos doesn't seem to be an issue for the use we have now. Does it have to be removed, or can it remain?
So the issues on asbestos, if you don't disturb asbestos, it can stay in place if it's non-friable. Tiles on the floor, that's non-friable. You can't drill into it. You cannot grind it up. You can't do anything. If you wanted to, say, create an interior partition, okay, you want to attach something to the floor, you're going to have to abate where you're attaching. Otherwise, you're trying to drill a hole in an asbestos tile.
Can you put a floor over it?
You can, but that doesn't make the asbestos go away. All it does is give you another thing to abate.
Okay, so there's no need to do that.
If you were going to renovate it for the future, the prudent thing would be to remove the asbestos, get it gone, and then do what you want to do. But that's, I think, is the challenge here, is that making changes to the building that involve interior partitions would probably mean you are into the asbestos abatement.
But to clarify, John, if you want to tear it down, you still have to abate all the asbestos. There's no cost saving.
You have to abate it and then you can demolish it.
Yes, and the cost, so we did get some costs for what that would be, and essentially to tear the building down, which was looked at as one of the many options that was going to be just like $950,000. So it's just, it's $1 million tear down.
And that includes the asbestos.
That means abating the asbestos and then tearing it down.
So the asbestos abatement is not...
It's not negotiable.
But it's not, $8 million. I mean, do you know what the number is on the asbestos abatement?
Well, that's just a number that was being picked out of that.
Yeah, so that number had to do with upgrading systems as well as fire systems, sprinkler systems.
To make it as good. Right. Okay.
I mean, it was a lot of different things that made that number up. And so if you looked at, coming in here as a town hall, you look at, these are all, we're going to see these. The classrooms are 1,000 square feet. They're big spaces. They're a lot bigger than you would need for an office for somebody.
Yeah, but you can partition it.
Partition.
You know, with those...
You could so if you wanted to partition it, the things you have to deal with is, okay, if you want to...
No, I don't mean...
The floor, you have to
I
deal with
mean, you know, the partition...
Cubicles.
Cubicles.
Yeah, well, you could do cubicles.
Right.
So a typical classroom will have like one 15-amp circuit in it. Because, you're not running an office out of it, you're running a classroom. So one 15-amp circuit for that. So you have to deal with, okay, how many computers are you running?
Yeah, right, we have to upgrade electrical for sure.
So the electrical upgrade, once again, the flooring, you have to kind of decide, okay, if you're attaching to the floor, you got an issue. If you're not attaching to the floor, it'll stay asbestos and you have to take care of it, but you don't have to remove it just because it's there. You have to maintain it.
The big issue becomes you're going to need to fire sprinklers in the classrooms, which automatically means you're in the ceiling, so therefore you're going to have to abate everything.
Right, you have to abate the ceilings, so you work in the
So no
ceiling.
matter what we do here, renovation or tear down or whatever, there's some degree of asbestos removal.
And when you do asbestos removal, you have, if you're using the space, you are replacing what you're tearing out. If you take up the tile, you're replacing the tile. You're taking down pipe insulation, re-insulating. That goes hand in hand. Because if you're just dealing with the asbestos abatement side of things.
I just wanted to mention as far as possibilities for the building here, unlike some of the other town buildings, these walls are not load-bearing. There's column system throughout the buildings, columns sitting in the walls, and pretty much corridor walls. But if we wanted to reconfigure it, you can clearly deal with the asbestos and stuff, but you can move the walls and not hold the building up.
I think your other challenge is if you're doing like interior partitions and they're going to the ceiling, dealing with ventilation and heating aspects. Because obviously you don't want to create a space that seals off and there's no heat there. Particularly if it's on an exterior wall.
Building is on sewer?
The building is on sewer. It is gas heated, and it currently has a huge amount of boiler capacity because this building was the heating plant. It has the heating plant that heated this building as well as the old high school. So, as I said, it all goes back to 2004, but we have a huge amount of capability. Probably have too much capability, to be honest, to be truly efficient. But we'll go down and take a look at this wing first. We'll take a look at the typical classroom so you can see what kind of spaces we're dealing with. Then we'll go down and look at some of these larger areas like the cafeteria, gymnasium, and then we'll go down and take a look at the mechanicals in the boiler room and the electrical.
I have a question. Do you have a quote for how much the abatement would cost to rehabilitate this building? I know you said the tear down cost.
So, no, I would say that we don't really have that. A lot of it is, we have for removing it all.
We got quotes for removing it all, and again, fixing it for renovation will be a varying number based on how deep you get into it, but I believe a couple years ago the number was 400 and something thousand for tear down, so abating it for reuse will be something less than that.
Okay.
I think that the number is 900,000 and 400,000 was the asbestos abatement.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the asbestos number was
400,000. So, once again, that's taking
so that's
it out,
100% abatement.
not replacing it. Not replacing whatever you took out.
Right, that's exactly it.
So you have to really know what you're doing to be able to come good with that number.
I just have one question. Can you tell us what's in here now?
So the offices. So up until August, we were hosting the Flat Collaborative in a whole series of classrooms down at the far end of the building. They moved out in August, and so currently the only offices in here is we have the school department headquarters. We have, which includes the superintendent's office, the special services office, the human resources department, our human resources director, and we are currently hosting Cable. Cable has a classroom. We have School Link Services operating out of one classroom as far as their program goes, and they currently have another room that they are run their admin offices out of. And that is about it. So
Daycare, is there daycare?
daycare moved out in August, and they're now back to the two schools. So there's a daycare program at Turkey Hill Elementary, and there's one at Lunenburg Primary School.
Where's the ACE program housed?
I'm sorry, thank you. I forgot about ACE. So ACE has a classroom in the hallway with the superintendent's office. Actually, they have two classrooms. So they've expanded into what was our conference room that we were using in past years. So they're using two classrooms currently. It's more space than they need, but that's it here as well.
Does Boys and Girls Club use any of the building?
Yes, the Boys and Girls Club. So we have some after-school activities here. So Boys and Girls Club come down. They use this gymnasium from roughly 3:30 to 5. We are also hosting a couple of adult education programs. One of them is pickleball, played in the gymnasium, and the other one is a program that's just scheduled to get started next week, and that is a volleyball program. So not a lot of use, but some use. Gift Mart, which is coming up next weekend, will be here as well in the gymnasium.
So are you running this building in a red?
So we are operating this building currently on the proceeds from the flak rental. Last year's flak rental was $70,000, and so we're covering almost all the costs out of that. That will be good for and through next year, probably kind of, I'd say at least a third of the way to maybe half the way through the school year, and then so that's an unresolved issue that we're trying to come to grips with how we're doing that. School department probably will pay some of it because they got their offices here, if they don't pay all of it. So go look at some spaces. This is a typical classroom. There are 25 spaces, just the same size. It's about 1,000 square foot. That's again, it is heated on the perimeter.
I think this is the infamous Jill flat.
The lighting fixtures are relatively new. I would say they're less than 10 years old. The digital controls, like I said, on the wall, those are from 2004, and provide control to the digital to the valves to regulate the heat here. These windows were meant to be able to take that same light and bring it into the hallways. And from what I understand, the issues I think were with either the space was getting too hot from the sunlight. That's what I believe. But the trade-off was to kill the natural light and to get it closed up.
Did they take out the skylights?
The skylights were replaced with a metal panel.
Okay.
And so when you look on the exterior, you'll see metal panel roofs. That would have been a bank of windows like you saw in the main hallway when we came in.
I think it was also an energy issue because the heat just went up to those windows and it went out, so this theoretically reduced that.
Yeah, it was hard to say. When I got here in '98, all the ventilation system had been sealed up, so if they were getting heat, it was because they didn't have a working ventilation system.
The other thing, they built this school right after the major fires in California where school kids were killed, so every classroom had its own fire exit. That was the new style of why this was, which is different in today's world with security because you don't want people to come in.
So like I said, we have about 25 rooms at this size. So they're good-sized spaces. But if you were looking to create an office for somebody, for a department director, you're looking for about 150 square feet for them. So, 200 would be a spacious office. So this is about 5 times that. Make a nice apartment. Okay, so we'll go down and take a look at the gymnasium, cafeteria, and we'll take a look at the mechanicals. Could be, you'd have to remove the drop ceiling, remove the unit heater, and then probably put new curtains and lighting, etc. We'll head out and we're going to go down to the cafeteria.
Open the door?
Oh, you went in the door.
Yeah, so the kitchen, like I said, we were missing a few pieces on the aisle that were moved to other locations. The gas is shut off currently.
This is fully sprinklered here and here.
Yeah, these are fully sprinklered. These have all been replaced. Roughly around 8 years ago. I did.
Ceiling asbestos?
No, ceiling is not asbestos, but like I said, any pipe insulation above the ceiling very likely is.
So for the most part, this is still a very it's not that the components you took out, it's very serviceable.
Yeah, like I said, we have a pizza oven and we have a range, and that's it for cooking equipment, so we're kind of limited. We have refrigeration equipment, we have a dishwasher that still works. Like I said, all things currently shut down, but
everything's serviceable.
It's been sitting for a number of years, and so we're not 100% sure everything is serviceable. When we shut it down, it wasn't.